Now, the Senate of the University of Benin has shut down academic activities at the institution following protest. The university has also ordered students to vacate their hostels immediately. Students took to the streets to protest weeks of power outages on their campus. They say the prolonged power cut has affected their preparations for first semester examinations, which are just 2 weeks away. They're asking for 24 hours of electricity supply, a request the university management has called unrealistic. The shutdown does not affect the non-academic staff. And there are similar protests at the universities of Lagos and Calabar over the lack of electricity and water. The protesters chanted solidarity songs to express their displeasure and frustration. They demanded a specific timeline for the restoration of amenities and vowed to continue the protest until their demands are met. Activities at the Lagos University Teaching Hospital have also been crippled over protest against lack of power supply. Lawyer and Arise news analyst Frank Tietie joins me now for more. Frank, good to see you. And well, it looks like an alumnus affair. First, let's start from where it's good to even call it a home, Uniben, University of Benin. They're out of school now and on account of electricity. Let's talk about the problems. First, it's a national problem, and there's no exception to the extent that in our citadel of learning, the students are also in darkness.
Oh, well, I think that something has gone wrong, and we all know what has gone wrong. You and I were in University of Benin at the same time. You know that University of Benin is not a profit-making organization or institution. It's an institution of the federal government, a premier institution, I can't say, among the top 6 universities in Nigeria, if not the best. Unfortunately, as we speak, it's shut down, not because of any other reason, other than the fact that the Benin Electricity Distribution Company has cut the electricity supply to the university. Why? In the days where we were in University of Benin, we had almost 24 hours of electricity, which was supplied by the defunct NEPA. And so why we thought there was going to be a sort of improvement. But we're talking about band A, band B, and all that. So I was flabbergasted, taken aback indeed, when I heard that University of Benin was paying 80 million naira every month as electricity bill. And on a normal time, in a privatized NEPA that has now become Benin Electricity Distribution Company, and then suddenly, without any addition of any infrastructure to improve the power situation, is a policy of the federal government saying that there should be, NEC allowing that there should be band A, band B, and the University of Benin moved to band A. Then suddenly, the electricity bill of University of Benin rises from 80 million a month to 280 million minimum a month. And then when the Vice Chancellor made an attempt to have some negotiations with the Benin Electricity Distribution Company, the distribution company decided to cut the electricity. And then it did not occur to government and to the rest of the world that the University of Benin had actually been in darkness for 1 month. And that the Vice Chancellor was managing to scrounge and find ways to buy diesel, to pump water for the students. And the students just couldn't take it anymore. And now, can you imagine that is happening in the University of Benin? And that, how did it happen? Because if we didn't attend the school when NEPA was vilified as the worst and most corrupt and inefficient, but light never blinked. If it did, for that short time, we had one Rolls Royce in Hall that was going to power the entire school. What is happening? So what this means is that the government is not in touch with what's the reality. You can't have a government institution that already has a federal budget that is supported by the federal budget, money already budgeted for power, and then you come in the middle of the year and then you say they're in band A, and for no just cause you increase and then defeating the whole essence, embarrassing the president, because right now the story is that in Nigeria, a premier university in Nigeria has been shut down. Do you hear that about Harvard? And then the other thing you would not think of, because their children are there. Now we went to school in the best of times, they went to school in the best of times. We even struggled, even though we paid just a minimum 60 naira as school fees. You can't expect that our children are now there and living in darkness. I think this is nefarious.
Earlier, just before you came on, we saw the Minister for Health, for Education, and he's Minister of State there, Dr. Sununu. Now, if you stretch it, you go to University of Calabar, you also saw that there's no water. So the basic amenities, power, water, are absent in these universities. So it comes back to government and those that should actually look into all of this. So how do we actually get these resolved? Because it doesn't look like anyone has spoken on these in the last 72 hours.
That is the strangest part of it. As if it doesn't concern the government, it doesn't concern the president. These are federal institutions. These include hospitals. And because of a very, not so well thought out policy of government allowing power to skyrocket contrary to the provisions of Section 42 of the Constitution that says that you do not have to discriminate against any Nigerian by reason of the community that he belongs or the place of birth. In this case, you are punishing the students of various universities because they belong to the university community, and then you have private persons who did not invest anything in the power infrastructure that belong to the Nigerian people. Look, is the National Assembly watching what is going on with the number of people suffering as a result of misdirection of policies? Now, you ask for solution. The solution simply is that you just have to exclude certain institutions. You can expect hospitals and federal institutions, universities, for example. What else is a university without power? In these days of information age, every student has computer. Yeah. They can't even charge their phones. They can't charge a computer. We are looking at University of Benin, which about 80% of the staff stay within campus. Now, you imagine what kind of research can they do, or how do they read? So it defeats the whole thing. So this whole mismanagement of the power situation is a national embarrassment, and the National Assembly must wake up. President, this is something that the president cannot tolerate, because right now we're talking about universities shutting down, we're talking about teaching hospitals shutting down, not having power. In the case of UCH, it was a huge embarrassment. Imagine, for months. And this does not only apply to institutions, caregiving institutions like hospitals, or even national institutions like university, even individuals and communities. I'm told of a community in Esako, that's in Fuga, particularly Fuga, Ogbona, and Eraho, that have been without power for months simply because there was an estimated billing of millions slammed at them, and then you find that sons and daughters of these communities all over the world have been contributing money to give to BEDC. This is not proper. Nigerians should not accept this. However, this is something that is resulting not because we import gas. Gas is free, absolutely free. So what has the distribution companies done? What are they importing with dollars that they are punishing Nigerians? I think we should listen carefully to Jajero, because he appears to understand what is going on that we don't understand. This is very painful.
Well, I think as painful as this, mom shouldn't be the word, as highlighted by you. The government must speak on this, and there must be some kind of exemption out of what we're dealing with at the moment. Let's close on this, Frank. Now that this is before the country and before the world, Arise is highlighting this. What should the minister, because we have about two key ministries here, the Minister for Education and that of power. Yes. So what can they do? Because they've gotten the nod of Mr. President to go ahead and fix the rot in the system.
Well, you see, University of Benin, I was talking to Richard Honorogo, who is the leading member in the alumni movement. They are doing everything possible to ensure that the school gets back. So they're putting things together with Kemi Pinheiro, SAN, Richard Honorogo, SAN, and the rest of them. They're putting some things together. You see, there's a way you need to galvanize the private sector, to actually come in to rescue the situation, because we've now seen an unresponsive, profit-driven entity like the Benin Electricity Distribution Company that is against human rights, is against the national interest, that is willing to shut down the pride of Edo State University of Benin simply because of money. So what if the Minister of Education should do is to immediately, there's need to pledge some kind of credit on behalf of these universities until there is some kind of resolution. And again, it's important that it's very, very important that the generation companies realize that when they supply power, they should give some kind of concession to distribution companies that because of University of Benin, that is, you are supplying power to, we will not charge you this much, so that University of Benin can continue to have power.
And Frank, sorry here, are you talking about some kind of policy that will help the government take off some of the burden of these? Because keep in mind, the discos also buy the power.
Let me tell
so
you,
when you purchase power from NBET, you don't expect them to give the same power.
Wait. What has changed? You're talking about Band A. University of Benin had not been on any band and it was paying 80 million. I wonder how the Vice Chancellor was able to cope. He paying 80 million every month. How? For an institution where I know that they don't pay commensurate school fees.
I'm running away from the word. Do you expect subsidy? Are you
saying that nothing changed from 80 million to 280 million, whereas nothing changed in the economics? So you see, it's a simply reverse the policy. And beyond that, we are talking about exceptions. Why should you expect UBTH or University of Benin to be charged according to a certain commercial rate when it's a federal institution that the federal government is funding, subsidizing education so that our children can go to school? So are we not hurting ourselves?
It falls back on the government. I see your point there, because the discos are in business for business on one hand. So we're hoping to hear from the Minister of Power and that of Education to see how this will work out. And I'm hoping that you can come back again in the week to see how this pans out.
School needs to open.
Absolutely.
It just needs to open immediately, and then they just need to connect the power. For goodness sake, the power that didn't belong to them. Who owns NEPA? What investment? Why should they punish Nigerians like that?
I know how you feel. It's our school.
Yes, and it's bad. You can't imagine it.
Thank you, Frank Tietie.